Hello and welcome to Spread Book Joy. Today I'm talking about the glorious Midnight Guardians by Ross Montgomery. If you're new to the channel, I'm Jack, a qualified primary school teacher looking to spread the joy of books and reading as far and wide as possible. I've got great recommendations for books for home or school, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of the best middle grade books I've read in a long time. I did actually feature it in my January middle grade wrap up, which I can put on the screen here for you now if you're interested in seeing that, but I didn't want it buried away in there. I just wanted to do a quick review video for this to put it out there on its own because it does deserve it in its own right. So the premise is it's a historical fiction book, but it's set during the Second World War, but it has it's also a fantasy story. So quickly, we've got a boy called Cole. Cole has been evacuated and he's living in the countryside with his auntie, and he's expecting his sister to come up from London for Christmas, but she's a dispatch rider during the Blitz and she takes messages during air raids. And it's set in 1940, 1941, so I think the height of the Blitz in London. Terrible Christmas it was, and it's just set a few days before Christmas. So Rose isn't coming up. She doesn't want to leave her job as a dispatch rider because of all the bombing that's going on, and she's needed in London. And Cole is so upset by this, he runs off, leaves his aunt's place, and he heads off over to another family cottage where he planned to spend Christmas with his sister if she'd come up. And he hears voices in the attic. He goes up to the attic and he discovers his old imaginary friends have come to life and they're in there, and he's completely gobsmacked. He hasn't thought about them for a while or played with them for a long time. But what's happened is there's another element. So there's the war running alongside a fantasy story. So the way the fantasy works is it's very much based on British folklore. So the Midwinter King, who's the Lord of Darkness or the God of Darkness, it's midwinter, so it's the height of his powers. But because the war is going on and raging around him, he's getting more and more powerful. Now, normally what would happen is in the spring, the Green Man, who's the god of life, rises up and defeats the Midwinter King and takes over, and we have spring. But because the Midwinter King's becoming so powerful because of all the atrocities being committed in the war and the darkness that's sweeping across the land, he might actually defeat the Green Man forever and reign forever. So what the Midnight Guardians, they're imaginary creatures, so they live in the spirit world of all the imaginary creatures, and they've heard this and they've decided to come and help Cole go to London and rescue his sister, because there's going to be a huge night of bombing, which will give the Midwinter King all his power, and anyone left in London will be killed. So they're going to rescue Rose. It's going to take them about 6 days to go across country. They've got about 6 days to go across country and rescue Rose. On the way, they meet a host of amazing characters, some friendly, some not so friendly, but all really imaginative, really brilliantly written. And they also meet a girl called, I've forgotten her name. They meet a girl who's actually she's Jewish. She's a German Jewish child who's one of the Kindertransport children who were evacuated without their families over to Britain, and she's also wondering what's happened to her parents. She wants to go to London to see if there's any news of her parents. So this book is brilliant. It's brilliantly written. I loved it. The characters are absolutely wonderful. They're hilarious. There's lots of humour. There's lots of heart in this book. And it gripped me from the minute I started reading it. The first page, I knew it was going to be special. It's also an excellent book I would say it's a great book for an entry point for studying the Second World War. So if you're in year 6 or year 5 or 6 and you're studying the war or Second World War, this is an excellent, very different way into it. Throughout the book, there are articles which, as it turns out, are real. So these are scattered throughout the book, and it's only at the end you get to know that they're actually real articles from the time. So it really puts some context onto the story. So I can't rave about this book enough. And look at this cover. It's designed by someone called David Dean, and straight away, as soon as I saw it as a boy riding a tiger with a knight on the back, I wanted to read this book. So yeah, that's The Midnight Guardians. I'd recommend it for children aged 8 or 9 up, depending on the maturity level and their reading level, and I hope you enjoy reading it too. I think adults will get a lot out of it as well. I certainly loved it. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe, and please leave me a comment. Comments really help, and I'd like to hear if you like this kind of short review format. Let me know in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you again here soon. Bye.